Nick, I want to start with you. You just did an exclusive poll for Power Play on the kind of party Canadians would like to see. And what did you find out, and what does that tell you about support or potential support for the Liberal NDP partnership?
Well, in the latest CTV Nanos poll that we just completed on the weekend, we asked Canadians about the direction that they'd like to see or the path forward for the Conservative Party. Not a big surprise, about 3 out of every 10 said they'd never vote Conservative. But check out that number, Joyce. You can see 29% said that they wanted the Conservative Party to be socially progressive and more centrist. And then after that, you can see that 13%, that's the third choice, wanted the party to be more socially progressive and right-wing. The key takeaway here is that only about 18% or 19% of Canadians wanted to see the Conservatives become more socially conservative. What does this mean, especially in the context of what we've just heard? What we have now is a Liberal Party that it was progressive before, but it's locking down those progressive credentials and it's tilting to the left. It's going to be interesting to see whether the Conservatives continue to tack to the right or whether they want to take advantage of perhaps not moving to the center, but just moving towards the center in order to appeal to a greater number of Canadians. But right now, when you look at the political calculus, it looks like many Canadians are being abandoned by both the Liberals and the Conservatives because they might be moving in different directions than where Canadians want, which is more towards the center.
Well, that's interesting. So, Bob, so they're in the middle, the Conservatives are in the middle of a leadership campaign. Do the leaders or the potential leader need to change strategies now, rather the candidates?
Well, for sure, they are all going to be able to attack this NDP Liberal alliance, and they're going to say they're spending a lot of taxpayers' money, which they are on social programs. When we've had a lot of leading economists, including people like the former Bank of Canada Governor David Dodge, saying we've got to rein in the spending here, particularly as we move out of the pandemic. But in some ways, this is a good thing for whoever wins the Conservative leadership, because they're going to have 3 years to try to bring the party back together, because they are throwing bombs at everybody. A lot of vicious stuff going on in this campaign, and whoever wins is going to have to try to reunite the party. And they're also going to have time to be able to develop policies that they can run on in the next election, not have to worry about election campaign. And during all of this time, they're going to be able to hammer the NDP and the Liberals for anything that goes wrong and say they're all in this to bed together. So, but to Nick's point, I think clearly if the Conservatives want to have a really good chance of winning the next election campaign, the obvious choice would either be Jean Charest or Patrick Brown, who are hugging the center right.
So, Rachel, that's interesting what Bob just said. It gives them, it is a pretty fractured party, the Conservative Party right now. So with a snap, election, tentatively held at bay, does this really help the next Conservative leader to bring the party together and, maybe to give the party an identity as well?
Yeah, not only that, Joyce, but also the chance to introduce themselves to Canadians. One of the issues that both Scheer and O'Toole ran into was that they had a shorter runway between when they became leader and when the next election was. Now, having 3 years in opposition is also a challenge. Mr. Mulcair knows this well, going from being a strong opposition leader to pitching yourself as the next prime minister. But they are going to have that runway and time to introduce themselves to Canadians, get themselves out there and get that familiarity. But also, unless this goes spectacularly well for the Liberals and NDP, if Canadians weren't already growing tired of Justin Trudeau, 3 years from now, I imagine that they would be ready for change. And that would put the Conservatives in a strong position to make the case, as Bob said, that, if you vote for one or the other, you're going to get both. So your best bet is to vote for us.
Tom Mulcair, Dominique Leblanc, the Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, said, now that we have this deal with the NDP, there's going to be a lot less toxicity in the House. Everything's going to work so fantastically well. How do you see this working out with the Prime Minister called today, after they said that this would work, where there would be civility restored to the House, called the Conservatives toxic. So I don't know how civil that is. How do you see this playing out in the next months?
Well, toxic atmosphere and hyper-partisanship are Liberal code words to attack Pierre Poilievre. And getting back to Bob's point, I think the winner is going to be in a very different situation as to how they're going to be able to perform, depending on whether or not they're in the House. Patrick Brown and Jean Charest might very well conform to Nick Nanos' analysis of Canadians wanting somebody close to the center, but they're not in the House of Commons. And I think that Jean Charest signed up for this thing saying, well, the average length of a minority government in Canada is 18 months. Maybe I'll have a chance if I win this and go to an election. He turned 64 in June. And the idea of spending more than 3 years in the opposition benches, or actually in the corridor of the opposition, because he wouldn't yet be in the benches, I'm not sure that's in the cards for him. With regard to whether or not Poilievre is the loser or the winner here, I think he's going to go out and crow. He's going to be out there saying, look, I told you, the Liberals are turning hard left, they're doing everything to please the NDP. The truth in that matter doesn't matter too much. He's going to be making that case to his membership and to as many Canadians as possible. We'll see if that's able to stick. The one person who's probably the most worried right now, Chrystia Freeland. She's going to have to put together several budgets that correspond to all of these different promises, half promises, aspirations. And whether or not that affects her perception in the public mind long term is another question. I know there's a fellow named Mark Carney who's going to be waiting in the wings, watching very carefully what she does with those budgets. So this could have a ripple effect long term on the future success or failure of the Liberal Party.
So I have a minute or less than a minute. Nick Nanos, do the Conservatives, to the point that Tom Mulcair just made, do the Conservatives run the risk of losing support if they take a hard right response to this deal today?
Well, you know, I think the fact of the matter is that for the Conservatives, unless they move closer to the center, it's mathematically impossible for them to form a majority government. They can win an election. But the other thing that's unspoken about this deal is that it sets the table for the Liberals to try to have an orderly transition. Say, hypothetically, if Justin Trudeau wanted to step down, it allowed the Liberals to sequence and time that over the next number of years. And I wouldn't underestimate that in terms of a potential advantage. But, you know, for the Conservatives, the thing for them is that their destiny is in their own hands when it comes to the future of the party. But winning the party is very different than winning the election. And that's the circle that is going to have to be squared for any contender to try to move forward.
And don't we know that? Oh, so interesting. Rachel Aiello, Robert Fife, Nick Nanos, Tom Mulcair, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts and for this panel that's interesting. Looking forward to the next few days in Parliament.